to all who have joined us by WebEx for standing by. Welcome to the open meeting of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. During the meeting, you'll be in listen-only mode. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and a recording is expected to be made available on the PCAOB website. I'd now like to turn to Chair Williams to formally convene the meeting.
Thank you, Phoebe. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. This is an open meeting of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board on June 26, 2023. We welcome those of you who are joining us today via webcast or dialing into the teleconference. Before we proceed with the agenda, I'll note for the record that all board members are present and participating in this meeting, and we're able to hear one another. The only order of business before the board today is a staff recommendation that the board propose for public comment amendments to existing auditing standards addressing aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis of information in electronic form. To present the staff's recommendation, I will turn to our Office of the Chief Auditor, Barb Vantage.
Good afternoon, Chair Williams and board members Disparte, Ho, Stein, and Thompson. The Office of the Chief Auditor is pleased to recommend that the board issue a proposal on amendments related to aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis of information in electronic form. As the title suggests, the amendments in front of you address some aspects of auditors' use of technology in audits. To be sure, these amendments are not designed to be the answer to the use of technology by auditors. Rather, they're a stepping stone, a part of the PCAOB's effort to improve investor protection by modernizing our standards. As the use of technology in audits continues to evolve, we continue our efforts to stay abreast and lead the way in developing a robust framework of requirements that address the current state of practice and meaningfully contribute to investor protection. The use of technology-assisted analysis in audits is not new. What has been changing is the scope and sophistication of the auditor's analysis. Auditors have been increasingly able to obtain and analyze more information in different ways, to do it earlier and throughout the audit, and to identify more items for further investigation. With that, more specific questions have arisen about the effectiveness of our standards. Although auditors are able to use technology under existing PCAOB standards, our research indicates that the effectiveness of the standards could be further improved by specifying certain aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve technology-assisted data analysis. We've also heard from the board's investor advisory group that the auditor's use of technology-assisted analysis is an area of concern due to potential over-reliance by auditors on company-produced information, and that there could be a benefit in addressing the use of such analysis in PCAOB standards. With that in mind, the amendments in front of you were developed to provide certain important clarifications that our staff will highlight in more detail in a few minutes. Together, they're designed to increase the likelihood that auditors will obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in support of the audit opinion that is used by investors and other stakeholders. Specifically, the amendments would address aspects of designing and performing audit procedures where we have identified the need for additional specificity or clarity in the existing standards. These aspects include areas where PCAOB reviews of audits have identified instances of noncompliance with PCAOB standards, and areas where auditors have raised questions during the staff's research regarding the applicability of PCAOB standards to the use of technology-assisted analysis. I would like to acknowledge the many people within the PCAOB who provided significant contributions to this project. Specifically, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the team that led this project. Seema Andrienko, Donna Silknitter, Rob Cole, and Hunter Jones from the Office of the Chief Auditor, as well as our other colleagues, including Nick Grillo, Sarah Madras, and Dominika Taraskevich, who provided support to the project. Additionally, I would like to thank our colleagues from other offices for their significant contributions, in particular, Michael Gerbit, Nick Galunik, and Carrie Von Bose and John Cook in the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis, and Connor Rasso, Vince Meehan, and Catherine Kelly in the Office of General Counsel. I would also like to recognize the support provided from the Division of Registration and Inspections, the Division of Enforcement and Investigations, and the Office of Communications and Engagement. And finally, I would like to thank the Securities and Exchange Commission staff, including the staff of the SEC's Office of the Chief Accountant, for their support and timely assistance with the project. Rob Cole and Donna Silknitter of the Office of the Chief Auditor will now provide an overview of the proposal, and then Nick Galunik of the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis will provide some additional remarks, followed by our recommendation. Rob?
Thank you, Barb. Good afternoon, Chair Williams and board members. We are proposing amendments to AS 1105, Audit Evidence, and AS 2301, the auditor's responses to the risks of material misstatement, and conforming amendments to other related PCAOB auditing standards. The proposed amendments are principles-based and therefore are intended to be adaptable to the ever-evolving nature of technology. I'm going to cover three aspects of the proposed amendments. One, clarifying the differences between test of details and analytical procedures. Two, emphasizing the importance of appropriate disaggregation or detailed information. And three, specifying the auditor's responsibilities when using audit evidence for more than one purpose. Technology-assisted analysis is often referred to in practice as data analytics or data analysis. The use of this terminology in practice and the use of the term analytical procedures in PCAOB standards have led to questions about whether an audit procedure involving technology-assisted analysis can be a test of details, meaning not an analytical procedure as described under PCAOB standards. This distinction is important because PCAOB standards require that an auditor perform test of details when responding to an assessed significant risk of material misstatement. Under PCAOB standards, performing only analytical procedures would not be sufficient to address the significant risk. The staff have observed that auditors use technology-assisted analysis in both audit procedures that fall under the definition of analytical procedures and those that involve testing the details of accounts and disclosures. The proposed amendments would more specifically outline differences between tests of details and analytical procedures under PCAOB standards by further clarifying the meaning of the term test of details. The proposal explains that a test of details involves performing audit procedures with respect to individual items included in an account or disclosure, whereas analytical procedures generally do not involve evaluating individual items unless those items are part of the auditor's investigation of significant differences from expected amounts. Moving to the next topic, our research indicates that determining the appropriate level of disaggregation or detailed information that the auditor is using as audit evidence is important for obtaining audit evidence that is relevant in supporting the auditor's conclusions. The proposed amendments would emphasize that the relevance of audit evidence depends on the level of disaggregation or detail of information necessary to achieve the objective of an audit procedure. The last aspect of the proposed amendments that I'd like to discuss before handing the discussion over to Donna is specifying the auditor's responsibilities when using audit evidence for more than one purpose. Under PCAOB standards, the purpose of an audit procedure determines whether it's a risk assessment procedure, test of controls, or a substantive procedure. The proposed amendments would specify that if an auditor uses audit evidence from an audit procedure for more than one purpose, the auditor should design and perform the procedure to achieve each of the relevant objectives. This amendment would supplement existing direction in PCAOB standards and address situations identified in our research where auditors could potentially perform multi-purpose procedures involving technology-assisted analysis concurrently. Now I'd like to hand over to Donna, who will discuss the remaining aspects of the proposal.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Chair Williams and board members. This afternoon, I'll discuss the remaining aspects of the proposed amendments. First, the proposed amendments would specify an auditor's responsibilities regarding addressing specific items identified by the auditor when designing and performing substantive audit procedures. Our research indicates that auditors use technology-assisted analysis to identify specific items within a population, such as an account or class of transactions, for further investigation. Under the proposed amendments, the auditor's investigation should consider whether the identified items provide audit evidence that contradicts the evidence upon which the original risk assessment was based, indicate a previously unidentified risk of material misstatement, represent a misstatement, or indicate a deficiency in the design or operating effectiveness of a control, or otherwise indicate a need to modify the auditor's risk assessment or planned audit procedures. As the auditor's investigation could be pivotal for identifying a risk of material misstatement or for determining the appropriate response to risk, the proposed amendments would require the auditor, when inquiring of management, to obtain audit evidence to evaluate the appropriateness of management's response. The auditor's investigation may also determine that a further, more focused iteration of the analysis is needed. The proposed amendments would not prescribe the nature, timing, or extent of the procedures for investigating the items identified. Because of the wide variety of analyses that may be applied by the auditor, it would be impractical to anticipate what a particular investigation could entail or what information it may provide to the auditor. Further, the nature, timing, and extent of an investigation, including the number of items selected for further testing, would depend on whether it is conducted as part of the risk assessment, when designing substantive procedures, or in response to the identified risks. Next, I'd like to discuss specifying auditor responsibilities for evaluating the reliability of certain audit evidence. The staff's research indicates that in performing technology-assisted analysis, auditors use large volumes of information provided by a company that the company received from external sources in electronic form. For example, information regarding a purchase order submitted to the company by a customer, or regarding cash received by the company from a customer as payment for an invoice. Because a company exercises certain control over the information it provides to the auditor, the proposed amendment specifies certain procedures that the auditor would be required to perform to evaluate whether the information is reliable for purposes of the audit. The proposed amendments would also emphasize the importance of controls over information technology for the reliability of audit evidence. Lastly, the proposed amendments would update certain terminology in AS 1105 to reflect the greater availability of information in electronic form and improve the consistency of the use of such terminology throughout AS 1105. The proposal also includes proposing amendments to several PCAOB auditing standards to conform to the requirements of the proposed amendments. That concludes my remarks. Thank you for your time and attention. I will now turn the floor over to Nick to provide some additional remarks followed by our recommendation. After that, we would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Chair Williams and board members. Staff of the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis have performed an economic analysis of the proposed amendments. As always, the economic analysis includes establishing a baseline of firm performance under today's standards, identifying a need for standard setting, evaluating the likely economic effects of the proposed amendments, and assessing reasonable alternatives. As part of establishing the baseline, staff reviewed information provided by firms pursuant to PCAOB oversight activities regarding tools they use in technology-assisted analysis. The information shows that the tools are often used to visualize, summarize, and tabulate data, and among the larger firms are increasing in number. Staff also reviewed research on auditors' use of technology-assisted analysis. Overall, the research suggests that technology-assisted analysis, or data analytics, is becoming more common in various aspects of the audit, primarily risk assessment and, to a lesser extent, substantive procedures. It also suggests that some firms are reluctant to implement data analytics in their audit approaches due to perceived regulatory risks. While information in electronic form and technology-based tools are becoming increasingly available to auditors, firms may lack incentives to make the most effective and efficient use of them. Although our research indicates current PCAOB standards have not precluded auditors from using technology-assisted analysis to obtain audit evidence, the existing standards do not specify certain aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve such analysis. Consequently, under existing standards, there is a risk that when using technology-based tools to design and perform audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis, Auditors may fail to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence when addressing one or more financial statement assertions. Furthermore, there is a risk that auditors may choose not to perform audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis, even if performing such procedures would be a more effective or efficient way of obtaining audit evidence. The proposed amendments my colleagues in OCA just discussed would address both of these risks in a number of ways. For example, the proposed amendments would specify procedures the auditor should perform to evaluate the reliability of external information maintained by the company in electronic form and used as audit evidence. The proposed amendments would also clarify that audit evidence from an audit procedure may be used for more than one purpose. Overall, we expect that the economic impacts of the proposed amendments, including both benefits and costs, will be relatively modest. The proposed amendments may lead auditors to design and perform audit procedures more efficiently and effectively. More efficient and effective audit procedures may lead to higher audit quality, more efficient audits, lower audit fees, or some combination of the three. To the extent the proposed amendments would lead to higher audit quality, they would benefit investors and other financial statement users by reducing the likelihood that the financial statements are materially misstated, whether due to error or fraud. To the extent that firms would make changes to their existing audit approaches as a result of the proposed amendments, they may incur certain fixed costs, including costs to update audit methodologies, templates, and tools, prepare training materials, train their staff, and purchase software, as well as variable engagement level costs to perform procedures in accordance with the proposed amendments. Because the proposed amendments do not require the auditor to use technology-assisted analysis when designing and performing audit procedures, impacts associated with greater use of technology would likely be limited to cases where the benefits to the auditor would justify the costs to the auditor, as well as any fixed costs required to update the auditor's approach. In closing, I'd like to thank our colleagues in the Office of the Chief Auditor and the Office of the General Counsel at the PCAOB, as well as SEC staff for their support in the development of our economic analysis. With that, I'd like to hand it back to Barb to present the staff's recommendation.
Thank you. In closing, the staff is recommending that the board issue for public comment a proposal related to aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis and related amendments to board standards substantially in the form provided to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb, Donna, Robert, and Nick. At this time, my fellow board members and I will have an opportunity to make a statement or ask questions to the staff. We will proceed in the order of seniority, and I will begin. Auditors' use of technology in various aspects of the audit continues to evolve, whether it is through performing risk assessment procedures, obtaining evidence to address and assess risk, or part of the auditor's overall review of firms' use of technology-assisted analysis in conducting the audit is increasing. This use of technology is further encouraged by the vast amount of company-produced and third-party information in electronic form that facilitates such analysis and may serve as audit evidence. PCAOB standards do not preclude auditors from using technology-assisted analysis to perform audit procedures, but they also do not provide auditors with specific guidance for how to use technology-assisted analysis. And while technology has evolved considerably in the past 13 years, the standards we are addressing today have not been substantially updated since 2010. Audit quality would benefit if our standards included additional direction addressing specific aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis of information in electronic form. On the one hand, without our standards appropriately addressing technology-assisted analysis, there is a risk that when using technology-based tools to perform such analysis, auditors may not obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence necessary to support their opinion on a company's financial statements. On the other hand, if our standards do not address certain scenarios encountered by auditors when using technology-assisted analysis, auditors may choose not to perform procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis, even if performing such procedures would be more effective or efficient way of obtaining audit evidence. Therefore, as part of the board's goal in our strategic plan to modernize our standards, we are proposing amendments designed to improve audit quality and enhance investor protection by specifically addressing aspects of audit procedures that involve technology-assisted analysis. Three key areas addressed by the proposed amendments are evaluating the relevance and reliability of information in electronic form, performing procedures that address more than one purpose in the audit, and designing and performing substantive procedures using technology-assisted analysis. First, as I previously mentioned, there is a vast amount of company-produced and third-party information in electronic form. It is imperative that auditors perform sufficient procedures to evaluate the reliability of such information when it is used as audit evidence. For company-produced information, the proposed amendments would emphasize the importance of testing a company's information technology general controls and automated application controls as part of testing controls over the accuracy and completeness of that information. For external information maintained by the company in electronic form, the proposal would provide direction on the procedures an auditor should perform in assessing the reliability of this information when it is used by the auditor as audit evidence. Existing standards do not specify procedures the auditor should perform when evaluating the reliability of external information maintained by the company in electronic form. An example of such information would be an invoice obtained by the company from a vendor. The proposal would require the auditor to obtain an understanding of the source of the external information and to test the company's controls over the information. For both company-produced and external information, the proposal would emphasize that the relevance of audit evidence depends on the level of disaggregation or detail of information necessary to achieve the objective of an audit procedure. Together, these proposed amendments will reduce the likelihood that an auditor who uses technology-assisted analysis will issue an opinion without having obtained relevant and reliable audit evidence. Second, we have observed auditors may use information obtained from performing technology-assisted analysis as audit evidence for more than one purpose in conducting the audit. For example, such information could be used for both risk assessment procedures and substantive procedures in response to the auditor's risk assessment. Existing standards do not specifically address this situation, which creates a risk that an auditor may not design and perform procedures that would provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence to support the basis for the auditor's opinion. The proposed amendments specify that when an auditor uses audit evidence from an audit procedure for more than one purpose, the procedure needs to be designed and performed to achieve each of the relevant objectives. Third, some technology-assisted data analysis performed by auditors include analyzing all or part of a population comprising an account or class of transactions. For example, one type of analysis could compare items shipped with items invoiced for all shipments during the year. Due to the size of the population, there may be numerous discrepancies requiring investigation. The proposed amendments would specify considerations for the auditor's investigation of items that meet auditor-established criteria when designing or performing substantive procedures on all or part of a population. Such considerations would include whether an item identified for further investigation represents a misstatement or indicates a deficiency in the design or operating effectiveness of a control, or indicates a need for the auditor to modify its risk assessment or planned audit procedures. It is important to note that this proposal focuses on specific aspects related to the use of data and technology by auditors in conducting the audit. Our research project to further evaluate whether there is a need for guidance, other changes to PCAOB standards, or other regulatory actions considering the increased use of technology-based tools by auditors and preparers remains active. Insights from this research project may give rise to new standard setting projects and may also inform the scope or nature of our other standard setting and rulemaking projects. I encourage all stakeholders to read the proposal and provide your perspectives on our questions and other thoughts you may have as we further work to modernize our standards. In closing, I would like to express my gratitude to those individuals that have significantly contributed to this proposal. Specifically, I would like to thank in the Office of the Chief Auditor, Barb Vantage, Dima Andrienko, Donna Silknitter, Rob Cole, and Hunter Jones. In the Office of Economic Risk and Analysis, Michael Gerbett, Nick Galunik, Carrie Von Bose, and John Cook. And in the Office of General Counsel, James Capoli, Connor Rasso, Vince Meehan, and Catherine Kelly. I would also like to thank my fellow board members and their staff for their contributions to this proposal. In addition, I would like to recognize the suggestions and support provided by staff from the Division of Registration and Inspections, the Division of Enforcement and Investigations, and the Office of Communications and Engagement. Finally, I would like to thank the Securities and Exchange Commission staff, including the staff in the SEC's Office of the Chief Accountant, for their support and assistance. I will now turn to my fellow board members for any statements they may wish to make or questions they would like to pose to the staff. Board Member Disparti, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams, and good afternoon, everybody. I support today's recommendation from staff. The proposed amendments are an important step in the PCAOB's ongoing work to ensure that our standards evolve and remain fit for purpose in response to the ever-increasing use of new tools and advanced data analytics in audits. Today's proposal, if adopted, would make clear that audit procedures involving data analysis, when appropriately designed and executed, can be an effective and efficient means to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence throughout all stages of the audit, including as part of tests of details. The amendments would also reinforce the importance of the auditor evaluating the relevance and the reliability of information used in such analyses, whether such information is produced by the company or from external sources. Such additional clarity and direction would support auditors in further leveraging emerging technologies and analytical techniques, with the potential for more comprehensive and more continuous risk assessment and testing, thereby enhancing audit quality. We welcome and encourage your comments on today's proposal. Looking ahead, as we have seen with artificial intelligence, advancements in technology happen quickly. It is imperative that we continue to monitor these advancements, including through our Technology Innovation Alliance Working Group, and assess whether we should make further modifications to our standards. In closing, I would like to recognize and thank all the staff from across the PCAOB's divisions and offices who have contributed to today's proposal, especially Barb Vantage, Dima Andrienko, Donna Skillknitter, Rob Cole, and Hunter Jones in the Office of the Chief Auditor, Mike Gerbett, Nick Galunik, Carrie Von Bose, and John Cook in the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis, and James Capoli, Connor Rasso, Vince Meehan, and Catherine Kelly in the Office of the General Counsel. I also thank Chair Williams and her office, my fellow board members and their staffs, Brent Seimer, Katie Driscoll, and Lucia Caramba from my team, and the staff from the SEC's Office of the Chief Accountant for their collaboration and sharing of perspectives on this important project. Thank you, Chair Williams.
Thank you. Board Member Ho, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Good afternoon. In my December 2022 public statement regarding the release of the confirmation proposal, I referred to a multi-pronged approach to the standard setting initiative as an analogy for renovating a 20-year-old house. As I previously stated, rethinking the layout and making the house smart would take more time and has a more pervasive impact. But we still want our house to be functional and comfortable. In that context, I view today's proposed amendments as applying fresh paint and rearranging some furniture to make this house more functional and comfortable. For clarity, this proposal does not address the use of emerging technologies in audits such as artificial intelligence, advanced automation, or emerging areas such as digital assets. Although limited in scope, I consider this proposal an important step in setting auditing standards for the 21st century. Since the board launched the Technology Innovation Alliance Working Group in November 2022, I've been learning about some of the significant opportunities and challenges in the use of emerging technologies, such as AI. AI was conceptualized in the 1950s, but it did not mature until computer storage capacity was no longer a constraint in the 2000s. Fueled by the age of big data, it continues to thrive, and its recent speed of development is stunning. For example, ChatGPT, with over 100 million active monthly users worldwide, is already on its 4th version, released 4 months after its initial release in November 2022. I have no doubt that data and technology can improve audit quality and enhance investor protection. But embracing it effectively and responsibly requires expertise, collaboration, and ongoing iterations in an agile and transparent environment. For this proposal, I am particularly interested in responses to question 3 regarding additional requirements needed to address the use of technology-assisted analysis in audits, questions 4 and 5 related to the relationship between the test of details and substantive analytical procedures, as well as the sufficiency of audit evidence in both contexts. From the responses to these questions, I hope to gain insights on how our standards can incentivize an increase in the extent of testing, which could improve audit quality. I also believe the comments on these questions will not only help to refine this proposed standard, but also to inform our other standard-setting initiatives. In conclusion, I support this release today as it is one step closer to formally encouraging the audit profession to better integrate technology into their audit methodologies. Lastly, I want to thank the staff from the Office of the Chief Auditor, with a special thank you to Donna Silnitter for her collaboration and responsiveness, the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis, the Office of the General Counsel, the Division of Registration and Inspections, and the Division of Enforcement and Investigations. Thank you. Back to you, Chair Williams.
Thank you. Board Member Stein, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Good afternoon to everyone. Today, the board is considering a staff recommendation to improve PCAOB audit standards that concern the audit profession's increasing reliance on technology-based tools, including data analysis or data analytics. As we all know, advances in technology are transforming the way we work, and the audit industry is not isolated from these changes. With the ever-increasing volume of data from an expanding array of data sources, auditors are facing new challenges as they seek to gather sufficient and appropriate evidence. And the global pandemic basically accelerated the adoption of data analytics. Things like distributed ledger technology, robotic process automation, machine learning, and many other emerging technologies. So regardless of the form of the technology, all of them basically include a step-by-step plan called an algorithm. So algorithms can be complex, but they start out simply. You could even say a restaurant chef starts out with an algorithm or a step-by-step process when making a sauce. The quality of that sauce is dependent on a variety of factors, including the quality of the ingredients or the inputs. So last November, OpenAI's text writing tool, ChatGPT, stunned the world with its leaps in understanding, analyzing, and generation of human-like language. And some audit firms have recently announced their intentions to invest and deploy this generative IA technology in the audit process. The opportunities this technology provides for an increase in the coverage of the audit, I would say perhaps a decrease in effort and potentially deeper insights, should translate into improvement in risk assessments and audit efficiency that can be a win-win for everyone. But there are significant challenges that may often be overlooked. For example, I asked ChatGPT to draft a statement for me for today's open meeting. And the statement it produced was a good one. It was extolling the virtues of new technology and the improvements in the audit. ChatGPT's statement, however, failed to include anything about potential problems, such as how our inherent perceptions about technology can lead to bias. As one recent research study observed, our, quote, personal beliefs about new technology, that it's wondrous, complex, and alien, prompt specific unconscious biases about how and why it's better than older options. What that really means is that we see what we want sometimes in the output. So while two auditors may input the same exact information into ChatGPT, the output may not be the same. And sometimes that output might just be flat out wrong. The output from ChatGPT and other so-called AI at best is a probabilistic prediction based on data correlation inferences. Essentially, it's a really good guess, but that's all it is. It's not an absolute fact. This may be the most significant challenge for auditors. Objectively reviewing the output and concluding that the information produced is relevant, reliable, and achieves the audit objective, and therefore constitutes audit evidence. The actual techniques or tools used for technology-assisted analysis do not constitute audit evidence. Today's amendments, combined with the board's previous proposals, such as an audit firm system of quality control, are intended to begin our process of addressing the impact of technology on the audit. The amendments should support innovation in the audit and address where the PCAOB has observed lapses or weaknesses in the relevance and reliability of the results derived from technology-assisted analyses. The amendments emphasize the need for auditors to understand the company, appropriately assess the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements, and develop and deploy an appropriate audit response. Accordingly, auditors should understand both the inputs and the outputs when deploying technology-assisted data analysis before forming audit conclusions. Technology or computer-assisted analysis is a tool that can enhance but cannot replace professional skepticism and professional judgment. Consequently, the foundational principles for the audit remain paramount, which is why the board has not elevated technology-assisted analysis to an audit procedure. The proposal we are considering this afternoon is a targeted amendment of the board standard on audit evidence. More work remains, however, to create a comprehensive framework for appropriately utilizing technology during the audit, but not becoming overly reliant on it to the degree that it becomes an actual impediment to audit quality. We are aided in this objective by my fellow board member, Christina Ho, who leads the Technology Innovation Alliance Working Group. We call it the TIA Working Group. The TIA Working Group advises the board on the use of emerging technologies by auditors and financial statement preparers and their potential impact on audit quality. TIA Group offers recommendations on how the board's existing or future oversight programs might address the use of emerging technologies by auditors. In reviewing today's proposal, I hope that commenters will provide answers to, of course, all of the queries in the release, including questions about whether the requirements are fit for purpose and appropriately tailored to situations when auditors strategically leverage data analytics to provide clients with business-related insights. I'm particularly interested in answers to the following questions. 1, are there important conflicts that we should address when auditors use audit procedures for more than one purpose? 2, is auditor independence protected? 3, are there threats to audit quality? 4, is there unnecessary confusion in the use of the terms data analysis or data analytics, which are broadly used, but are neither analytical procedures nor are they substantive analytical procedures? So in conclusion, we'd not be here today, but for lots of hard work and dedication by people within the PCAOB. I'm just going to give a shout out to 2 or 3 because my colleagues have already mentioned the 15 or 20 folks who worked really hard on this release. I want to thank Donna Silknetter for her hard work and dedication. She's tirelessly advocated for this project during the past year. I also want to thank Robert Cole, as well as Nicholas Galunik from the Office of Economic Analysis for their contributions to today's recommendation. Robert Cole is from the Office of the Chief Auditor. And I also want to thank actually Nick Grillo, who today's recommendation, I think, ultimately was informed by our former Data and Technology Task Force, which Nick led from the Office of the Chief Auditor. The task force members helped the staff by providing their insights into the use of technology-based tools that are being used by auditors and preparers. So I want to thank them for their time and contributions. And thank you, and I look forward to reading investor and other stakeholders' comments. And I hand it back over to Chair Williams.
Thank you. Board Member Thompson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams, and good afternoon to everyone. I support this proposal, which would address the growing use of technology in audits. In particular, the amendments would update PCAOB standards to more specifically address aspects of designing and performing audit procedures that involve analyzing information in electronic form using technology-based tools. Evidence indicates registered public accounting firms are increasingly obtaining audit evidence by analyzing large volumes of information in electronic form. The proposed amendments are designed to increase the likelihood that audit procedures performed with the use of technology-assisted analysis provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence to support the opinion expressed in the auditor's report. Specifically, the proposed amendments would clarify the differences between tests of details and analytical procedures and emphasize the importance of appropriate disaggregation or detail of information used as audit evidence. Next, specify audit responsibilities when performing multi-purpose audit procedures. Thirdly, specify considerations for the auditor's investigation of items that meet criteria established by the auditor when designing or performing substantive audit procedures. And lastly, specify auditor responsibilities regarding certain company-provided information that the auditor uses as evidence and emphasize the importance of controls over information technology. The proposed amendments, if adopted, will modernize certain of our existing standards and demonstrate the PCAOB's support for the use of technology with appropriate guardrails to ensure that auditors do not over-rely on company-produced information, that audit evidence obtained is relevant and reliable. Today's proposed amendments are just the first step in our journey to address the growing use of technology in audits. We continue to monitor and gather evidence on the broader uses of technology. In addition, we launched the Technology Innovation Alliance Working Group, as previously been mentioned, led by my fellow board member, Christina Ho, which will advise the board on the use of emerging technologies that impact audits and their potential impact on audit quality. I look forward to their insight. As the practice of auditing shifts and relies on technology-assisted procedure grows, our standards should not inhibit innovation, so long as such innovation results in reliable audit evidence that improves audit quality and therefore protects investors. I believe the proposed standards allow for innovation while also protecting the interests of investors. I would like to thank the many individuals involved in this proposal, including from the Office of Chief Auditor Bob Vantage, Demi Andrienko, Donna Silknetter, Rob Cole, Trezier Johnson, and Hunter Jones. From the Office of Economic and Risk Analysis, Mike Gerbett, John Cook, and Nicholas Gilanick. I would also like to thank my fellow board members and my staff for their efforts towards this standard-setting project. Finally, I would like to thank the Securities and Exchange Commission staff, including the staff of SEC's Office of Chief Accountant, for their support and assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there are any further discussions from the board, I would now call for a vote on the staff recommendation. Board Member Disparti.
Aye, in favor.
Thank you. Board Member Ho.
Aye.
Thank you. Board Member Stein.
Aye.
Thank you. Board Member Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. All votes are unanimous. I also vote aye. The recommendation is approved. That concludes the PCAOB's open meeting for today. As there is no further business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect from the webcast and teleconference.